The generation gap keeps expanding. Let's talk about it.
Is it just me, or is it starting to look like if you're not wealthy or rich in the next 5 to 10 years, or you come from a rich or wealthy family, you're probably not going to be able to be rich or wealthy after that time, because it's crazy out here.
It is crazy right now. One thing that makes me think about this in a little bit of a different way is, although, yes, it sucks right now for our generation, the millennials, Gen Zers, and also everyone else that has to deal with this shitty time of inflation. But the point I'm getting at here is, as we get older in our generation and we start getting to be Gen X and boomer age, all that wealth has to go somewhere. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because my kind of theory, for whatever the hell it's worth, is I look at this as wealth going in different cycles. Right now, we are at a high point in this economy. Prices, stock markets hitting all-time highs, real estate prices hitting all-time highs. There are cycles in the economy. Now, sometime in the future, I don't know when, I don't know how long, I don't know what the cause is going to be, but there will be a pullback of some sort. I don't know how drastic that pullback will be. I don't know how crazy of a crash, if we're gonna have one at all. Again, I don't know when it's gonna happen, but when it does happen, that's when a lot of people can take advantage of the situation that we were in at the time, if you're prepared for it. And that is where wealth can transfer. Now, not just from recessions, but also over time, as economies go up and down, as they get better, as they get worse, wealth has to transfer somewhere, because once the elderly die off, their wealth doesn't go with them, so that wealth has to get dispersed somewhere else. Some families, it's going to stay in their family for years. There's a trust that they have set up, and there's rules that have been set in place to allow certain things to happen in this trust. All families do it different, but that's how they keep the wealth inside the family. But that's not how it works for every single person out in the world. But for me, over time, I look at it as the wealth has to get dispersed somewhere. And as our generation continues to get older, we want to be on the side of gaining some of that wealth. But to do that, you have to have the right mindset. You have to handle your finances correctly, and you need to make sure you're educating yourself accordingly to understand how to obtain that wealth.
Who owns homes? People our age. Who rents? The younger people here. Everything we do is how do we buttress the wealth of incumbents and old people, and make it more expensive for young people. Their housing's gone up 4x. Right? Education's gone up 2x. On an inflation-adjusted basis, their income's gone down. So they make less money. Everything they need to get ahead or start saving or form a family's gotten more expensive, and yet they look left and right and up, and they see people making tons of money and 210 times a day on their phone. People are vomiting their wealth, a lot of times it's faux wealth. And what do you know? They feel shitty. What a shocker.
Sucks when you hear that, doesn't it? Oh, man. I'm sorry, guys. Like, although, yes, you guys tend to complain quite a bit, but you also are dealt a shitty hand. Let's be honest. Right now, if you're getting started in life, it is the toughest, one of the toughest times, I would say, in the past 80 years or so to get started as an American citizen. It really is. Although there are ways, Gen Zers, you're seeing them, some of them are killing it right now, but for the mass majority, it is very difficult. Home prices, out of this world. Wages, job market, not good. Prices to live, groceries, rent, the basic necessities, electric, water, gas, cars, everything. Interest rates are sky high. I hate it for Gen Z right now, because we hear the boomers, we hear even some of the Gen Xers saying, oh, well, I did this, we did this. It was not the same. You can look at it based on inflation. Wages compared to 30, 40 years ago when you were buying homes at, pennies on the dollar for what they are now, it was not the same at all, because wages have definitely not kept up with inflation. Now, if I was a Gen Zer starting out right now, I wouldn't take that and just kind of sit on the couch and be like, oh, it's a tough time for me to get started. I might as well just be like everyone else and just take it up to you-know-what and just let life happen to me. No, I wouldn't do that at all. Although it is probably one of the toughest times to start life in the past 80 years or so, that doesn't mean you still can't get ahead. It takes a special individual. I'll be honest with you. The mass majority of this generation, and even the millennials, are not They're not set like this. They're not. They're just, they don't want to put in the work. But I guarantee you guys, if you put in the work, you make some serious changes to your life financially, you can get ahead. And also, if you impress the older generation, meaning you get yourself surrounded by people. For instance, one thing I do is I go to real estate meetups here locally once a month. And there's maybe one or two young kids that always show up to these real estate meetings. And guess who's getting to know these kids? All the wealthy real estate investors in the area. And what do you think is going to happen to these kids as they continue to work hard? They're going to make connections and they're going to have opportunities. The way you get connections and opportunities is by putting yourself out there, giving value, showing everyone you're willing to work your ass off, and sooner or later, something is going to happen. But you have to put in the work up front, and you have to put yourself in situations to where you get yourself in front of people. If you sit on your couch and scroll through TikTok all day, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen.
The truth is, there's a split happening in our economy. The rich are getting richer, and the rest of us are suffering. There's a saying going around right now that it's never been easier to be a billionaire, and it's never been harder to be a millionaire. And that's the reality. Yes, there is money to be made right now. While the sun is shining, go and make it. But you and I both know that eventually that sun is going to set, and what you don't want is to be caught in a situation where you're not prepared. Because if you're not, the pain that is going to be felt from this recession is going to be tremendous.
She's taking the words right out of my mouth. I say this in almost every single video, guys. If you are not preparing yourself now for a potential recession down the road. Now, I don't mean, when I say that, I don't mean sell all your investments, take everything out of the market, don't go buy real estate. I'm not meaning that. What I mean, and I think more the people I'm talking to are the people who have no investments, are racking up debt left and right, week over week, month over month, and the people who are just kind of going through life thinking nothing bad's going to happen to them. That's not a good place to be in, guys, financially. It's not at all. Now, sometimes I wish I had the laid-back personality that some of you have, where you can just go through life like that, but unfortunately, God did not grant me with that type of personality. But when it comes to this, as she was saying, you have to prepare yourself, meaning start living a more frugal lifestyle. Don't go buy all the little goodies. Don't go get yourself a freaking car loan that you know is going to be paying you out the wazoo for, and it's going to hinder you from gaining ahead, from being able to save more money. Go drive the hoopty, live in an apartment with 6 other people. I mean, you got to struggle a little bit. You do. You got to struggle, and you have to sacrifice in order to get ahead. You can't come out at 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and be like, oh, well, everyone else is living this great, extravagant life. Why not me? Even though you can't afford it. You guys, you can't do that. Trust me, I know how hard it is when you see kids younger than you doing crazy, awesome things in life, but that's not the hand you're dealt. So you got to literally look at your life and it's like, okay, this is the scenario I'm in. How can I see myself getting out of it and starting to move forward and growing my wealth throughout the years? As a guy who started in the negative, I had a negative net worth graduating college. I was about $60,000 in debt. I had nothing to my name, nothing. To now growing my wealth year over year, tracking it month over month. Every single month I track my net worth. I'm now in a spot where I feel pretty comfortably found financial-wise. I do. And that was consistently every single year working towards bettering myself, bettering my skills, getting around people like I mentioned earlier, trying to do different things in different industries. If I wanted to switch career paths or whatever it is, make investments, learning about the stock market, learning about real estate, learning about how money grows, not understanding where to put money in savings. Don't keep it in your checking account. When you have cash sitting on the sidelines or for a rainy day fund, put it in a high yield savings account. One I like to use is Public. There's a link down below in the description if you want to try them out. You can also invest in stocks on the app as well if you guys want to try them out. Link in the description. Those are the steps that it takes to get ahead. It comes down to sacrifice. Sacrifice and self-education. And although right now may be one of the hardest times to get started in life, right now is also one of the best times to teach yourself educational tools to get ahead financially because of the amount of knowledge you have at your fingertips.
I'm 32 years old with a $300,000 net.
And I'm 41 years old and I once had $500,000 in the bank, a house owned free and clear, no mortgage, no nothing. The only thing that I owed every month were utilities. No car payments, no credit cards, no nothing. And just 3 years later, I'm contemplating bankruptcy. Did I say too much?
Okay, so I watched this video and I'm like, there's something ain't adding up right. How can you go from basically having no bills, 100% debt-free, a paid-off mortgage at 41 years old, to filing bankruptcy? The first thing I thought about was like, I wonder if she's married.
Where did I go wrong, or where did I misstep? For starters, I turned a blind eye to all the red flags. Even before our wedding, the night before, there were red flags, and my stepdad pulled me aside and said, you know, you don't have to do this. Marriage aside, I would have made him go meet with a financial planner, a financial advisor, because when you have $500,000 in the bank, it should be making you money. Your money should make you money every single day. And I would not have allowed him to have full control of bank accounts. Now, I've mentioned the manipulation that I went through, and here's just one example. I don't know my passwords to my accounts. I heard that so many times. I think he even intentionally locked himself out of accounts. But I can't go back in the past. I can't change my behavior. I can't change his behavior. But yeah, go to a financial expert. That's what I would have done.
Okay, there is a lot to unpack there. First thing I want to discuss is the financial advisor realm type thing. There are great financial advisors out there. There are. And if you have no idea where to get started, paying for a financial advisor may be the best route to go, but you want to make sure you find someone trustworthy. You want to make sure you find a fee-only advisor that's not going to nickel and dime you every single time they're moving transactions around and assets around and buying stocks and selling stocks just because they need to earn money off your investments. That's not what you want. Ultimately, what would be nice, like what I do, is if you can manage your money yourself, but I understand that's not people's passions. I personally just love managing money. I love understanding it. I love seeing how it works, how it grows. So that's why I really have a passion for this, but I don't really care to work on my car. So I have a guy that I pay for that. So the same thing, there's people out there who don't have a passion like I do for money, so they would rather pay somebody to take care of that for them, but you need to still make it. Like when I take it to the mechanic, if he hits me with a number, I'm like, that sounds a little off. Let me do some research. Or I take it to another mechanic to get a second opinion. That's the stuff you need to be doing with your finances, because if you get a mishap with your finances, that could be a astronomical mistake to where if I get overcharged a little bit to a car, like that's not as severe as, you messing up your retirement or something like that years down the road. So yes, you can go to a financial advisor if you do not want to take the time to self-educate, but I would still recommend looking into the fee structure of the financial advisor and understand exactly what you're getting into. So now let's talk about the marriage side of things and where this poor woman's life went wrong. Oh my gosh, when I saw this video, I felt terrible for her. She had life set up. Like she was practically done. Now, I don't know her backstory. I don't know anything about her. I don't know if she got married later in life and the husband kind of came in and messed up all her finances. I don't know. I used to be a believer of no prenup whatsoever. Now, I was also younger. I had nothing to my name, and my wife and I started dating when we were 19 years old, so we've had this come up together. We did this growth together. I could not have done this without my wife. Now, for those of you that get married later in life, in your 30s, your 40s, maybe even your 50s, and you're already successful, you have your money set in place, you've gotten to a place that you've worked towards practically your entire adult life, that's where I'm like, okay, maybe I can see a prenup. I could. Like, I used to always be against it, because I am a believer in, like, once you are married, you become one. What's hers is mine and what's mine is hers. But from what you did in your past, oh guys, this is so hard. It's such a touchy subject. You want to make sure that someone can't come in and ruin that. Oh, it's so hard. That's such a shitty thing. So if it was me and I've acquired this wealth and then I got married later in life, yes, I would probably have a prenup. But once we became married, our money would come and be together minus the assets or whatever I had previous before the marriage, I guess, gosh dang, this would be so hard to go through. Man, as you guys can see, I'm struggling with this one. I am. You got to be careful out there, though. You really do. Luckily, I got married at a young age, and I married a good woman. But there are bad apples out there, both men and women, and they can ruin what you have built financially like that. So you have to prepare yourself. Now, as time goes on in life, obviously, then things can start to change, or that can be something you set up differently with the prenup. But man, that is terrible to hear about a significant other messing up your finances together that bad, and now that poor girl's in bankruptcy. But I will say, if there's red flags before the marriage, you probably shouldn't marry him.
You would think that the wealth gap is being exacerbated, and you would think that wealth gains are going to a few. And again, without having an opinion, the data shows something truly incredible, which is that the American dream is not hanging on by a lifeline, but more and more American families are achieving it. 12% of American families are now considered millionaire households. 8% are considered multimillionaire households. That's incredible. But what's even more impressive is that even as they do well, the cohort underneath them, the folks that make 150 to 250K a year, are the ones that are absolutely crushing, and they're making more than the top 10% of all families. So the broader economic takeaway I have is, unless you're willing to look at the raw data, the risk is high that you will be fed an emotional perspective that amplifies your bias or causes you to reject that view because it just seems so untrustworthy and it doesn't map to what you're seeing. It's very, very hard to tell the truth. That is Federal Reserve data that tells the truth about the US economy. And it turns out that the economy is pretty good and doing a lot for a lot of people.
That one could get dicey. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And with that, those families that he's talking about making $150,000 to $250,000 a year and they're absolutely crushing it, it's because the ones who are crushing it financially think like this.
What is the fundamental gap between the rich and the poor? Renowned academic Thomas Corley spent 5 years studying the habits of 177 multimillionaires who started with nothing, and 128 poor people's habits. This has shown us the fundamental difference between the rich and the poor. First, the rich care about their health. 76% of the rich spend 20 to 30 minutes on aerobic exercise at least 4 days a week. Second, the rich read. 85% of the rich read at least 2 books a month. 88% of the rich read at least 30 minutes a day. So what do these rich people read? 50% read history. 55% read self-improvement books. 70% read The Spin of Successful People. Third, the rich cultivate connections. 86% of the wealthy actively make friends with people who can help them achieve their dreams and goals.
The difference between poor people, middle class people, and rich people is not how much money they make. It's not even how much money they have. The difference between rich people, middle class people, and poor people is what they believe to be the purpose of money. Poor people believe the purpose of money is to pay bills. That's the primary purpose in the mindset of a poor person, is to just pay bills. So the only reason they go to work every day is so they can get some money on Friday and hand it over to somebody else. Middle class people think the primary purpose of money is to establish good credit so that they can buy things that they can't afford to impress people they don't even know and pay it off over time. Rich people understand the primary purpose of money is to turn it into more money. So I'm going to take the money that I made and turn it into more money than I had, and then and only then can I be wealthy. I can only be wealthy if I hold on to my money long enough for it to get pregnant and have some babies. I want to take every $100 bill I have and put it into the money maternity ward. That's the mindset that is necessary to develop the skill set of investing.
There you have it, guys. You need to ask yourself, how do you think about money? Like, watching those videos, like, are you watching your health? Like, is health an important factor to you? Are you reading books every single day? Every single dollar you earn, are you trying to figure out how you can pinch those pennies, save that dollar, and turn around instead of having to spend it to live on? You're thinking about how you can earn more money so you can take that money you've earned and put it into vehicles that are going to grow your dollars. Every single dollar I earn, guys, I have a plan for the most part. I have a monthly allowance I allow my wife and I to try and, spend and have a fun lifestyle with. But I try to put majority of the money we earn towards retirement, investments, and growing our wealth. I do it all the time. And it started with, $5, $10. And I've slowly worked my way up, and I've made risk, and I've sacrificed to get to a point now where I'm not like, you know, I wouldn't consider myself buku rich or anything like that, but I'm comfortable. Like I am. I'm comfortable financially because of the work that I've put in, the sacrifice I made to get to the point where I'm at. I like to say I'm still middle class. I'm a middle class guy in a middle class family who tries to manage his money accordingly to where it's going to, I'm trying to protect and preserve my family's wealth as hopefully it continues to grow as I get older. And I say this from a guy, again, who started with nothing. I started in the negative, both my wife and I. So it can be done, although I will say it is a lot harder to do today with how prices are and how expensive everything is, but it can be done. I hope the best for everyone watching this video, because if you are watching this video, I hope you're watching this to either learn, gain knowledge, improve yourself, try to understand how to get ahead better financially. And it really just starts with the basics. I still use the basics to this day. And nothing really changes except as your money grows, you may be able to dabble in a couple other things, or you may be able to take on a little bit of a bigger investment. But generally the foundations stay the same for the most part. So is there a generational wealth gap happening? I do think that the wealth gap between poor and rich is expanding massively. And I would love to see a more even playing ground, kind of like we saw, you know, in the 80s, the 90s, where although the rich were getting richer, the poor were getting poorer, but that the gap we're seeing now was not near as big as it was today. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I do think everything goes in cycles. I think right now we are at a tipping point. I don't know if there is a crash coming in the near future. I feel like something's going to have some sort of a pullback here soon, and I don't know if that's happening after the election or if when World War III hits. Who the hell knows, guys? Like, no one can tell the future. All it comes down to is taking care of yourself, preparing yourself, and making those lifestyle changes to benefit you financially down the road.